We are going to hear from people who, in my experience, embody really powerful and diverse ways of thinking about public service as an integrated force in their life. We will then have some opportunity for some informal conversations around food and just really celebrate the students who are in the room who've been engaging in this first-year pilot program, because we're really poised to build this now beyond the Seattle campus to engage Tacoma and Bothell as well, because they are interacting with even more diverse array of students and who really need to be affirmed in their commitment to public service, because it's so central to the work we do here at the University of Washington. So, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Brett Jundt. Brett is one of the reasons why we're gathered here today. He works for a national nonprofit called the Volcker Alliance, and they had the audacity to say, what should we be doing to help young people feel a sense of agency? What should we be doing to counter a cynicism that there's nothing any of us can do in common anymore? And so Brett joined the Volcker Alliance in September as the director of the Next Generation Service Initiatives. This initiative is now seated in 13 colleges around the country, colleges and universities, and in a few months it will be 15. And the University of Washington is one of the early adopters in this, and we're only about a year in. So you can see that this is a movement that is building and growing. Brett brings a lot of wonderful experience from the public sector, including a career in the U.S. military. So we've asked him to kind of orient us to this national movement and what we might be stepping into at the University of Washington. So, Brett Jundt.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dean Sandfort, thank you so much for the kind introduction to the university leadership, civic leadership, public service leadership in the room. Thank you so much for the honor of getting to speak with you all today. To the students that are about to graduate in the coming quarter, congratulations on something that is completely going to change not only your own trajectory, but the trajectory of your family and generations to come in your family. So congratulations on that. To members of the NextGen Civic Leadership Corps, I want to say just selfishly, I can't wait to be on the journey with all of you over the coming years as you go out and take fundamental responsibility for your community and make things better. Now, as Dean Sandfort said, my name is Brett Jundt. I am lucky to have the role of the Director of Next Generation Service Initiatives for the Volcker Alliance out of New York City. Prior to that, I was part of the founding team at Arizona State University in founding the Next Generation Service Corps and the Public Service Academy there. So over the past 7 years, I've been lucky to be around this work, and just recently coming into this role, working with 13 different universities across the country, and early adopters like the University of Washington, Indiana University, Georgia State University, the University of Nebraska-Omaha, Arizona State University, where programs like what is happening here at the University of Washington are being rolled out. I will note right off the bat, kind of putting that national lens on this, that the Evans School, one of the top schools in its field in the entire country, Sally, an incredible amount of work that Dr. Lowe and others are engaging in here. This is pretty unique. And it's pretty unique to have a place-based initiative like this where we're at today doing this work. So I will just make it very clear that this is an incredible piece of work that you all are doing. So I just want to envision really what it is we're looking at the national level and what we imagine for this. Well, first off, what we imagine is that nationally, at scale, we will be putting out into the world character-driven, cross-sector leaders in the thousands in the future. And these are the folks that we need to take on the complex challenges that we face. Because when we look around the world, it's easy to be cynical, right? It's easy to look at things like the division in our political environment. It's easy to look at things like those experiencing homelessness, poverty, lack of access to quality education, and really get down. But the fact is that any one of these issues is not going to be solved by somebody in the public sector alone, the private sector alone, or the nonprofit sector alone. It's no longer the case that the government can come in and fix everybody's problems. Rather, these problems will be solved by leaders. like the folks around the table here today, cross-sector leaders who can leverage the public, private, nonprofit sector to take on the challenges that we face, to go out and do the hard work to fix these problems in our community. And so as we build out this program around the world in partnership with Evans and Sari and other universities across the country, what we're looking at is a national cohort of students that are studying very specifically in the location where their universities are, but connected in a national network, connected by passion. So a student that's passionate about issues related to poverty in Seattle can connect to a student that is at Arizona State University in Tempe, or at Georgia State in Atlanta, or in New York City at the City University of New York. A network where those students can connect with each other over internships and jobs and opportunities to go out and be entrepreneurial and collaborative on projects around the country. We envision a community of learning of scholars and staff members and folks from around the country who can come together on this idea of cross-sector collaboration, how it is that we solve for the most complex challenges that we face as a country. We envision at the Volcker Alliance catalyzing a lot of this through data and evaluation, by investing in that to really try to understand across borders, across states and universities, these things that traditionally define us. How might we define moving things in a better direction? How might we do that at the national level? So while we're here today having this conversation about an incredible program, an incredible organization here, the Next Generation Civic Leadership Corps, I want you to really have that context in mind of what we're trying to do nationally and around the country. Now, to the students, the most important part of this entire equation, I got to spend a little bit of time with some of you yesterday, and I'm just incredibly impressed. I was reflecting that so much of what we hear in the news and even in our communities is so negative, but I challenge anybody to spend some time with the students here at the University of Washington who are part of this program, because their passion, they care about these things deeply. They're way more informed than an old guy like me with gray hair was about these issues as undergraduates. They're deeply involved in these issues. They're credible. They have lived experience in the communities that they are going to go on and serve. They're representative of the problems in our community and of the people who are suffering from those problems. And they have the skills necessary because they're studying everything from political science to biochemistry. They are studying across disciplines, which is one of the major components of next generation leadership and next generation service corps. So as we close, I want to say thank you to the students. Thank you for taking on the task of becoming the next generation of leaders that we need, of cross-sector leaders who can leverage the public, private, nonprofit sector to take on our most complex challenges. We need your leadership. To Dean Sandfort, to the university leadership that are here, we are so excited to get the opportunity to collaborate with you. I want you to know that we are full partners in this. We see success as a fully functioning national network with these incredible nodes that are responsive to the needs of the communities in which they exist, being success for this program, and thousands of folks, just like those that are here today from the University of Washington, going out around the country to drive impact on the complex challenges we face. Thank you so much for the time, Dean Sandfort, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Now you see, that's why when they called and said, "Do you want in on this?" I said, "Yeah, we want to be part of it." So the next speaker to this audience really doesn't need much introduction. It's the president of the university, Cauce. She has been in that role since 2015. And as a relative newcomer to this community, I will just say that she is inspiring in the holistic way she shows up and does this important work. So Anna-Mari.
Well, thank you all so much. It's just delightful to be here. I've been here a few times. This is just such a fabulous commons, very much about what we're all about, which is being the University of Washington in the community and for the community. And I can't think of a better event to bring me back here. You know, at its core, the University of Washington is an institution that's dedicated to public service. I often like to think about it as not just the University of Washington, but the University for Washington, because that's the kind of responsibility that we have. But while our main responsibility, no question, is to people of our state, as an institution of higher learning, we also have a larger implicit responsibility to people and communities around the world. I love how you were talking about the connections. The work is local. It's place-based. It has to be culturally and place-specific. But then we connect it to other communities and other places. What we do here can be a model that other places can learn from. And what one student is doing here, another student is doing in other places, and bringing them together. That's what institutions of higher learning do and what we're all about. The sense of public duty and that conviction that with dedication, vision, and commitment, we can create positive change in the world is what drives us, and I know it's so much what attracts students to come here. I'm very aware that my generation, and I have more gray hair than you do, has left you with a bucket full of problems. And there are moments, I'll be honest, there are moments when I feel despair. But then I talk to our students, I see what they're doing, and it gives me all the confidence that I need. And with today's launch of the UW's NextGen Civic Leader Corps, we're proud to be creating even more opportunities for our students to pursue a future in public service. The NextGen Service Initiative cultivates skills and it creates opportunities for those students that are motivated by a desire to make a difference for others. And that is what everyone here is. You want to be a positive difference. And this is a wonderful vehicle that will help you do that. It enables you, it enables them to imagine a future in which they can change the world through community and public service. And it fosters connections between them as part of a cohort. And I love that idea of students, all over the country, talking to each other, learning from each other, and making a difference that multiplies itself. Because we urgently need young leaders who believe in that power of public service. And we need our brightest and most passionate minds to see public service as a calling. It's not just a job. It is not just a career. It is a calling. And the model that you've created with the Volcker Alliance is very much aligned with UW's values and that notion of approaching community engagement in an authentic way, in ways that serve the needs of particular communities that even within our state can vary from 10 blocks to another. And we recognize that it's community-led partnerships and collaboration that are not only the only way to create truly sustainable change. It's not about the university, as smart as we are, doing things. It's about working together and building partnerships that go beyond any specific student or any specific president. For students seeking to serve their communities, the UW offers a wide array of ways to engage, including some of the partnerships based right here in Othello. And in launching this NextGen Civic Leaders Corps, even more UW students will be engaging with more communities. And again, it's a win-win. It's a win for our students in terms of learning, and it's a win in terms of the community. So I want to thank everyone from the Evans School and the Community Engagement Leadership Education Center for your outstanding work in bringing this project to fruition. I'm so proud of our students who've taken part in the pilot project. Your hard work and leadership has made it possible to take this next leap forward. And thank you so much to the Volcker Alliance for your leadership and partnership in launching this program here at the UW. We're so proud to be at the front end of this, and we very much are looking forward to, what comes next. So congratulations on launch of this excellent program. I can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you.
So as Anamari suggests, we're just at the very beginning. In Arizona, the program that Brett filled, literally, they fill a stadium with students every year who are part of this program. So we have a big ambition here. When Catherine Cornforth and Amen Sagai, who are the program leaders of this initiative, began to think about this day, they said, we'd love to bring in some leaders who have really embodied the kind of leadership we're talking about. And so we have now some comments from two of those people that I got to pick. The first is Brian Surratt, who I met in February. He's an alumnus of the Evans School, but he really embodies this kind of idea that you can do public service regardless of where you work. So he has had leadership roles in the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit sector, and he's currently president and CEO of Greater Seattle Partners, which is a public-private partnership that's focused on economic development and trying to make sure that all of the people who live in this region really are able to thrive. So for today, I asked him to reflect on a few questions, and I'm so curious to see what he decided to offer to us. So Brian.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, President Cauce. And this is an honor to be here. I am a proud alum of the University of Washington Evans School. I think I finished in 2000. And I've always cherished my time at that school, and I've kind of made a personal vow. Anytime the Evans School calls, I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm going to do what they want me to do because I gained so much from that experience. And so kind of my public service journey, and I loved how the dean framed it, that public service is not a vow of poverty. It's not this thing that you are placed into a box that you can only engage on certain questions at a certain level, and that particular worldview I completely want to turn upside down for everybody. And so whether you're a political science major, Randy, or a biomedical engineering major, you have an obligation, frankly, and you have the skills deep within you to figure out where's your place, where's your voice within the community context. And so my journey, I think about it, it wasn't a straight line. And I don't necessarily believe that anyone has a straight line and kind of where their path, their career journey will lead them. I'm a first-generation college graduate. My father is a retired military man. Met my mother in Korea. I was born in Korea, came to the U.S. when I was 5 years old. I moved to Seattle right after I finished college in Oklahoma, because I wanted to be in a place where I thought embodied my values around how this world can be and what it should be, but also recognizing that it's a dynamic place. And so when I think about this region, this community, I think about all the things that have come out of here. Boeing, Microsoft, Amazon, the global health revolution, all the things that are coming out of the University of Washington, pushing the envelope. This tiny little place in the corner of the world, sometimes I make fun of us, I call it Southeast Alaska, because we do occupy really unique geography, but we project so much because of this real dynamic of ideas, of vision, of values that we're trying to project to the world. I moved here because I wanted to be part of that. And so my journey also looked at the question of money, and what money and economics do to people, do to families, do to communities. And being a first-generation college graduate, I was literally one cousin removed from being involved in the criminal justice system, being able to find a trade that allowed them to move on. And so being in that question of, or wanting to explore the question of money and economics and where do people find themselves was so important. This past couple years, COVID has really exacerbated the question of wealth, the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap. Who's winning, who's losing, where are families going to be able to find that question of intergenerational wealth? That has been the thing that has really guided, frankly, my question and my career journey. And I've had the fortune of being able to work in the state legislature for a number of years, work in the private sector, work for local government, and now in my current role, and being able to see that question in so many different ways and how it impacts so many different families. The vision that I have in my current role is twofold. And here's another thing about me is I really do not like when people frame things in a zero-sum way. You know, growing up, you know, my personal background, navigating a lot of diverse communities, trying to find bridges, find connections, I refuse to look at the world in a very closed-loop, zero-sum way. And so the question that has been posed to me, can we have prosperity? Can we have equity? Are these choices? Are these false choices? And I believe them to be a false choice. And I think there's something unique about our community that we can have prosperity. We can have prosperity and also bring along as many people as possible and have them tied to this economy. And when I talk to families and individuals, the thing that they tell me is like, look, I want a house that I can afford. I want good schools for my kids. I want a job that allows me to think about the next generation. That is an almost universal mindset when it comes to how folks want to be tied to this economy. And that is the question that I've been wrestling with my entire career. And so when I think about, I have a young daughter. She's a freshman in high school right now. And we had this amazing conversation where, it was kind of late at night, her bedtime, even though she's in high school, so her bedtime is 9:30 because sleep is really important to everyone. So we were talking, she said, Dad, is this, like, what's the point, right? What's the point? I was like, what do you mean? It's like, this is getting deep on a Tuesday night, young lady. I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna go to college, get a job, meet someone, marry that someone, maybe have some kids, and then what? And I was like, it was a gut punch to me. It's like, okay, I started thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong as a father? What's going on here? And then two, it made me wonder, like, is she alone? Are other young people thinking this way? That the problems that we're facing are so deep, so challenging, so entrenched, because we're bombarded with so much negativity, so much of the challenges, and that was a bit of an eye-opener. And so a couple weeks after that, I decided to take her and a couple of her friends, and we went to, I'm on the board of an organization called Fair Start, and it's a group that really focuses on helping low-income individuals, formerly incarcerated individuals, formerly homeless individuals, get training and access to job opportunities in the broader food industry. And, I went and said, look, here's some volunteers that are part of this organization. Here are the folks who work at this organization. Here are the folks who are direct beneficiaries of this program. Like, they're in this, and they're finding their own way. Again, we don't have to, you don't have to split the atom, to make an impact. Where along the path within your interests, your ability, that drives you and will allow you to activate your deeper sense of community. You've got to find that. So I kind of threw it back on her, It's like, that could be a path for you, It's in my opinion, kind of a gloomy path. But along the way, there are going to be moments where you're going to be asked to help your neighbor, help your community, go testify, become a nonprofit executive director, whatever that may be, at some point in your life, you're going to be asked that question, what are you doing for your neighbor? And I try to think about, when talking to my daughter, acknowledging, yes, the challenges that are out there. But then there's moments of brightness that we have to shine a light on, so she sees that. And in the darkest moments of COVID and the pandemic, when we saw communities come together to think about this public health crisis as a way to kind of galvanize, there were moments where I was able to translate that to her. And so I left, those conversations with her and her friends feeling a little bit better, but also I have a responsibility to make sure that that next generation sees that, again, this is not some vow of poverty, that we all have a stake in this, and that we can't just let someone else do this. And there is agency, and there is sense of ownership for all of us. So I salute all the students that are part of this program. I thank you for your investment into this program. The University of Washington is such an important place, gathering place for folks to think about big things, to find themselves, where are they in that question, and then ultimately act. We have to act. And that is the only way that we're going to remotely address the big issues that we're all confronting. So I'm inspired by everyone that is in this room, and I hope to continue being an active participant in the change that we all want to see. And again, I thank you all, and look forward to more conversation. Thank you.
I think part of what's powerful about Brian's story is that this is all really personal, right? And part of my own motivation in this is I also have young people, and sitting around the kitchen tables the last 10 years, the conversations got me in the gut. So our next public leader, I'm very honored to introduce. He actually had the longest commute. So he came over from Central Washington because of the crazy traffic in Seattle. He was here early, and that is Representative Ybarra. He serves the 13th District in Washington State and was born and raised in Quincy. And he's, as a Republican member, a ranking member of the House Education Committee, and also serving on civil rights, judiciary, health, and wellness. And I'm very honored to say he's a member of my Dean's Council, and I look forward to his reflections as well.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me, and honored that you guys even invited me to this thing. One thing I did learn as a speaker is that never have 3 speakers that are great speakers before you speak. So I'm in trouble. So you have to bear with me. I think that the great speakers, they did just a wonderful job. So my name is Alex Ybarra. I'm the state representative for District 13, and if you don't know what District 13 is, it's a legislative district, so it goes from Kittitas County, which is Ellensburg, Cle Elum, to Grant County, which is Moses Lake, Quincy, Ephrata, to Lincoln County, which is Davenport, Odessa, those little towns out in the middle of nowhere. So I go from Squamish Pass to Spokane Airport. It's about 200 miles. And so I cover that. Where you have a representative here in Seattle, probably their little district is right in this little neighborhood, right? But I go 200 miles, so I represent those folks over in Eastern Washington and their values, and try to bring those to Olympia. And so most everybody in this room is probably much more a political animal than I am. I didn't go to school to become a political or a policy person or anything like that. I was just a guy that worked. But a guy that, again, a little story about myself. So my parents were migrant workers. They came from Texas to California, to Oregon, to Washington, to Yakima Valley, and then on to Quincy, and then to Idaho, and then off to Chicago in a year time frame. And they pick here, pick there, do work. And then my dad finally got a job in Quincy, and that's where I was born. So I was born and raised in Quincy, farmland. I was those little Mexican kids with the big sombrero and the hoe that we used to, and I think somebody in this room probably had the same experience as myself as one of your regents here. And so that's where I came from. None of my parents or none of their friends ever went to college, so we didn't even know what college was. And so back in those days, I remember being in the fields. It was 100 degrees out in the middle of Washington, and I remember we would complain to my mom about how hot it is. Why aren't we at the swimming pool with our friends? They're all swimming, we can see them because we're in the fields. And so we would complain. She would finally turn around, she goes, Alex, or not Alex, she goes, kids, and it was my brothers and I, and she says, we said, Mom, we shouldn't be here, we're kids, we're little kids. And she said, well, then you gotta go to college. If you guys don't wanna do this, I'm 37 years old. If you don't wanna do this like I've been doing all my life, then you gotta go to college. Well, I was third grade and go to my brother Manny, I said, Manny, what's college? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, Arnie, what's college? Arnold's going, I don't know. And then goes off to my sister, who was like in junior high at the time. She says, well, guys, you know what college is? And we're going, no, we don't know what college is, because none of our parents or anybody went to college. And so my sister says, well, you guys know how you watch the UW and the Huskies play football? We're going, yeah. She goes, well, that's college. And we're going, oh, football's college? And she goes, no, the University of Washington's a school, and Washington State University's a school. They're colleges. And we're going, oh. And she goes, so what happens after high school and you graduate, there's more school. We said, there's more school after high school? We didn't know. I mean, that's how you grow up. You just don't know. And so went off to college. I got a bachelor's of science in mathematics, started working at Redmond, Washington at a company called Rocket Research Company, and I was a rocket scientist for 17 years. And then next thing you know, I got married with a gal from Quincy, and so we decided to move back home, so I worked for a public utility for 17 years. So you guys want to know about energy? I'm the guy. So, but I'm conservative about it too. So as a representative, I have to represent my area as well as the state of, the whole state of Washington. So we have to, kind of do those things. But again, when I went to Olympia, again, you guys are a lot smarter than I am. I got there and I was appointed. I didn't think I was going to get appointed to be a legislator. And when I got appointed, it was probably 6 p.m. on a Monday night, and they said, you're the guy. And I said, okay, so what'd I do? And they said, well, here's your keys to your office. Here's the address. See you there tomorrow at 9 in the morning. I'm going, well, I didn't think I was going to win. And I got to be there for 4 months. I got to go pack. So I went home, packed all my stuff, got in the car, and went to Olympia. And next thing you know, I'm in the house, and they said, well, you can't get on the floor of the house. And I'm going, okay, why not? I thought I was elected. And they're going, well, the local county folks have to sign a piece of paper, and they didn't sign it. So you can't get on the floor. Well, I don't know if you guys know who Frank Chop is, if you're from Seattle. He's a speaker for 20 years, most important guy in the House. And so he called me in his office, and he comes to me and he goes, Representative Ybarra? And I said, yeah. He goes, tell me about yourself. And he's da-da-da. And he says, you know what, heard about your paperwork? You can get on the floor, because it was a State of the State address. The governor was going to speak, everybody was going to be there. And I go, well, I don't think I can, because my secretary said I can get out there. And this is the speaker talking to me. And he looked at her, looked at me, says, I'm telling you can get on the floor. I'm going, this guy's the guy. So I didn't know it. And that's how much I knew about this, about the legislature and stuff. So like I said, you guys know a lot more than I do. So that's how it started for me, just a regular Joe working in Quincy at a PUD. And what really got me going on public service is my daughter was 1 year old. She was first grade. And none of the girls in town had anything to do. There was no soccer teams, there was no teams. So I said, well, I'll put a softball team together. I know how to play softball. So I got all our friends together, and it was great because in 6 weeks, I got these girls that never picked up a ball because they had no teams in town. They never picked up a bat, never threw the balls hardly. And next thing you know, I get them out there, I know how to do all that stuff, so I taught them, and they were having a great time. And the parents are the worst. Tell you what, public servant, parents are the worst, okay? Because you're talking about their kids. And their kids are just, oh man. And they're anything you do about the kids, when I move a kid from shortstop to second base, I got a parent in my face going, what are you doing? My kid's a lot better than her. So my job was to go talk to the parents before the move happened, and I was really good at it and go, okay, look, I'm going to move your kid because I need the other kid to play. So that's how my public service started. But in 6 weeks, I saw these girls that could never throw or hit or do anything. They could play. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to, and they were having a great time. The parents were happy. I was happy, and I could see this progress in 6 weeks. It was just amazing. So I said, well, gosh, if I can do it for a softball team, how about if I do it for maybe I'll become a school board member. I can do it for a whole school. So I was a school board member for 9 years. And again, never did what you guys did, actually know what you're doing. I was just kind of going, off the seat of my pants. And so was a school board member for 9 years and started making changes in Quincy. And we got a brand new high school. We passed a $108 million bond, so everything was doing great. And next thing you know, I get elected. There was one of the legislators was leaving, and so the seat opened up, and there I was. I wasn't at the University of Washington to take classes to become a legislator. It just sort of happened. So I think that happens for a lot of legislators. And you don't have to be that smart. You don't have to be technically sound. Again, I'm a rocket scientist, and I also an engineer working energy, and I went to the Energy Committee, and they started talking about the electronic grid. And so again, doing it for a living, the guy gets up there and everybody says, well, some of the members on that committee were saying, how's the grid work? And I'm going, oh my gosh, I thought you guys were like the smartest people in the world. You're passing all these laws. And the guy gets up there and he says, here's how the grid works. And he's writing it down. I'm sitting there going, that's not how it works. And he keep going, keep going. The whole time he was just like, I'm going, oh gosh. But he was a buddy of mine. So I said, afterwards, I kind of pulled him aside and said, that's not how the grid works. And he just looked at me and said, Alex, if you say it's strong enough, they just believe it, okay? And I just go, okay. So you don't have to be a technical expert to be on any of these committees. But for me, I was on education committee, and I was a school board member for 9 years. So I had a little help there. And then health and wellness, still don't know too much about it, but learning every day. But again, I guess what I'm just trying to tell you is that you can start wherever you want to start. You guys are getting a great start by getting an education to do it and learn how to do it well. And I wish I had the education you guys are going to go through in the next couple of years to become a great legislator. I think if I would have gone through what you guys are going to be going through and the support from these folks, you guys can be much, much better legislator than I can. But again, one last thing I'll leave you with is a little story is Eastern Washington definitely thinks so much differently than Western Washington. Where in Seattle, you might want to have a street light at every corner because there's so many people walking in the streets. And Quincy is like, oh my God, we got our second stoplight, and it's taking me 3 minutes to get through town, not one. So what are we doing? Why does Seattle want all these stupid stoplights? I just want one, and that's all I want. So the differences in the areas are so different. And so I have to navigate that as a legislator sometimes. But one thing I did find out, and it was because of the UW, found out that we're all the same. About 6, 7 years ago, a UW school bus crashed outside of Quincy in George Washington. It was the band that was going to the Apple Cup. This is about 5, 6 years ago, I think, and it was Thanksgiving evening. It was probably 20 degrees out. There was probably 67 members of the 4-bus tour thing, and they crashed. And so what happened in Quincy, we're all like a little community, right? And so it was Thanksgiving evening, so everybody's eating their dinner. And so everybody's getting phone calls going, hey, a UW bus crashed. And so I got a call because I was a school board member, and they said, hey, we don't know what to do with all these people. We got 4 buses, what are we gonna do? We're in the middle of nowhere. So as a board member, we decided, hey, why don't we open up the George Elementary School and have been there until we figure out what to do? Because that one bus that crashed, about 40 or 50, I'm not sure the numbers, but of those kids went to the hospitals. Went to Ellensburg, went to Wenatchee, went to Quincy, went to Moses Lake. And when they got there on ambulance, what happened is they hadn't eaten dinner because it was Thanksgiving. They were going to have a big Thanksgiving dinner that night, but they couldn't. And they were stuck in that school. So our cooks came from home, cooked for them, and then all the townspeople brought pies, half-eaten turkeys, all the food that they had at home and brought it and fed all those folks. And so it was a pretty touching situation, but the great thing was, that wasn't even the great thing about it, that Quincy supported the UW and their kids. The great thing is the UW came back next year, and they brought their band to Quincy High School, and they played for us. One of the greatest days in Quincy. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, you may not have wanted to follow the great speakers, but I didn't want to follow the guy who made me tear up. Thank you, Representative Ybarra. That was really touching. As a person who grew up in Central Washington, I'm really proud to have you representing our state. And just learned a lot from what you just said. Being a lifelong learner, making a commitment. It really doesn't hurt to be good at softball either. My name's Michaelann Jundt, and on behalf of Dean Ed Taylor, I'm super proud that Undergraduate Academic Affairs has been partnering with the Evans School this past year on the NextGen Civic Leader Corps. And I get to tell you a little bit about the program and honor the students, kind of what we've been waiting for. It's really been invigorating to be in this new partnership. We have done a lot since we met on Zoom 15 months ago. Jodi wasn't even at the UW yet when we first met. It's just been really energizing to see the students' commitment. So many of you have already talked about that. We've had a great time this year developing the program, learning from the national members, leveraging our long commitment of undergraduates committed to community engagement and public service, and bringing them together into this program. Between October and February, we reached out to students in many public service courses, clubs, and programs. And when I say we, I really mean Catherine and Amen. Over 80 students expressed interest in the program, really demonstrating what we already knew, that UW students, undergraduates, are really committed to figuring out how to engage in community really effectively and make a difference. So today we are celebrating the 24 students that completed the program requirements, connecting their academic pursuits, their career aspirations, and building a network with each other. These students will receive a $500 scholarship in recognition of their efforts and officially become the first cohort of NextGen Civic leaders. So I am going to read a list of names, and if you're with us today, not all students are here, it is the middle of the day, many of them are in class. Please do stand and remain standing, and we will give some great applause at the end. Madeline Agronoff, Madeline Brooks, Hannah Chamberlain, Alex Davison, Sari Feinberg, Alicia Foster, Hermana Gourmet, Esther Himmelfarb, Shehrbano Jaffrey, Yijing Jun, Kaylee Kim, Nathan Lautzis, Michaelann McReynolds, Amal Muhammad, Zara Obuli, Naomi Ramirez, Arjundat Shanira, Annalise Schneider, Natalie Singleton, Shub Walia, Mitchell Wolf, Liana Wu, Angela Zhang, and Wendy Zhao. Awesome, thank you. So a few weeks ago, we had a convening of folks who are committed to the NextGen process and want to be involved in it some more. And just by happenstance, I sat at a table next to a student, Sari Feinberg, and got to hear a little bit about her experience as an undergraduate and her experience in the NextGen cohort. And I'm super excited that you now get to hear from her. Sari.
It's kind of fun to put my professional clothes back on. I've been wearing jeans for 18 months. Thank you, Michaelann, and amazing speakers to follow. The key takeaways I got were fundamental responsibility to shape the future, no straight line to leadership, leadership by trial, start where you start, and we can have prosperity and bring others along with us. Those were profound today. Thank you for those takeaways. Congratulations to my fellow NextGeners. It is an honor to be in community with you today, celebrating how we all leaned in to the incredible offerings from this program. I am a different person today because of NextGen. I see life and leadership through a very different lens now, a lens which centers race and equity, where I can begin to admit my own biases and privilege and begin to do something about it. To explain the profound impact NextGen has made on me, I will first share my journey back to the University of Washington. I was an undergraduate between 1987 and 1991 here at the University of Washington. Those 4 years were terrific. I completed all my major requirements and even studied abroad my junior year. However, because of administrative hiccup, I was 6 credits shy of getting my degree. I was 22 years old and done, ready to start my life. What I didn't know then was that by not finishing those 6 credits and getting my degree, slowly but surely embarrassment and shame would eke into my soul. Fast forward 3 decades, with a robust career while raising 5 children and volunteering in meaningful ways in my community, that embarrassment of not finishing my degree still gnawed at me, but not quite enough to do anything about it. That is, not until 2 years ago. I was well into my 6th year working at a youth and family services department for a local municipality. It was late March 2020, and local governments were beginning to slash their budgets because of COVID. On April 1st, note April Fool's Day, I got the call. My position was eliminated. I was a non-essential worker in a non-essential city department. I was stunned and devastated. Governor Inslee had just announced his stay-at-home orders, so I was also alone and scared. My mind immediately went to my 5 children. How would I stay strong for them, especially my youngest 2 boys who are still at home, a freshman and a junior, then 8th and 10th grade. Marshaling all my courage, I sat my boys down at our dining room table. I poured us all sparkling cider, and I raised the glass to toast family, love, and resilience. Then I told them I lost my job. Watching the fear grow in their eyes, I assured them everything would be okay. I would take care of them no matter what. What I didn't tell them was that my mind was reeling, putting food on the table, figuring out health insurance without a job. Where's Bernie Sanders? Even skipping doses of medicine. Thankfully, we did manage. I was able to navigate the various systems to provide for my family and myself. We are very fortunate. COVID and my job loss were overlapping events which forced me to slow down from the busyness of my working single mother life. And in an effort to regain my strength and courage, I used this time of isolation to pause and reflect about my personal path and professional trajectory, what I care about most, and how I am as a role model to my children. I was able to turn that reflection into action and to begin to live with greater intention. Toward that end, after 30 long years, I finally faced up to that gnawing shame and of giving up on my degree, and I re-enrolled in the University of Washington. Winter quarter 2021, I resumed my studies as a Husky. At 53, I am what you call a non-traditional student, in classes with peers who are my children's age, and I absolutely love it. My first class was professional leadership, followed by a course on homelessness and social justice. I was getting hooked on higher ed, public policy in particular. In fact, merely finishing up those 6 credits was now just my baseline. I was hungry for more. This is specifically where NextGen Civic Leader Corps intersects with my life. One beautiful morning last fall, on my 2-mile walk to campus for Dr. Bloom's Intro to Public Policy class, I asked the universe for a nod, a directional nod, to help me figure out what's next. Not even 3 hours later, there I was, Dr. Bloom introducing Amen and Catherine, and I began learning about NextGen. This program, focusing on public service values and building practical collaborative leadership skills, spoke directly to me. It was the nod I was looking for, and I signed up on the spot. Brett told us a little bit about NextGen. Through the NextGen required coursework, my fellow colleagues and I have much better understanding of just how complex and interconnected our world is, and how society's wicked problems, such as homelessness, global warming, and racism, will in fact not be solved by a single nonprofit, government, or corporation. These problems, and many others, require character-driven leaders with a social mission who collaborate and co-create solutions. Now that's a mouthful, so let me explain that statement a little deeper and how NextGen impacts and strengthens the coursework I've taken. Character-driven leaders. We can all likely agree they are leaders who strive to do the right thing in the face of adversity. Yet going deeper and centering race and equity, I am beginning to question even that very premise. Who decides the right thing to do? And for whom is it being done? Also, what constitutes adversity and who is experiencing the hardship? Basically, who decides the character in character-driven leadership? This is what public policy does to someone. Social mission. It is defined as a mission to create positive future change benefiting society that a social enterprise aims to generate. Again, it sounds great and it is great, though I urge us to question for whom is the positive future being created, which facets of society will benefit, and is social enterprise always the most equitable way to achieve those goals, when often enterprise invokes the marketplace that has treated marginalized communities unfairly in the past. And finally, co-create solutions. Who at the table is part of the co-creation and who is not represented? Are those with lived experiences engaged in meaningful ways or just as tokens? And what exactly are the common solutions set out to achieve? In questioning these assumptions, I believe equitable leaders will come to the fore, ready to be exactly what is needed in the moment of crisis, growth, and everything in between. Yes, my classes also taught me how to conduct research, write effective memos, and develop policy solutions. Even more significant are the improved soft skills I've learned from my educators. I'm a better active listener, I am able to adapt in fluid situations, and I am more resilient to push beyond what's comfortable. I'm currently enrolled in Professor Haran's cross-sector leadership class, where classmates and I go into the field and observe nonprofits, governments, and businesses working together with local neighborhoods. It's been fascinating to see the varying dynamics in both the Chinatown International District and Rainier Valley so far. When this collaboration is at its best, we see enhanced quality of life, improved economic conditions, celebrated cultural diversity, and elevated environmental action. Both the theoretical and practical learning in cross-sector leadership is the nexus of developing leaders. I'm so glad it will be a foundational course for NextGen moving forward. Mentorship and program internships have also been an incredible part of the experience. I had the opportunity to learn and mentor with somebody from the Gates Foundation and somebody from Sound Transit, and it afforded me the chance to ask frank questions in a safe way. And then finally, the third component is the signature cohort events. We heard about countless events. I've met many of you online and Zoom in different places through those engagements. They all sounded amazing, and I was excited to learn from incredible and incredibly diverse people. In fact, I attended 16 of them this year. In listening to these critical thinkers and courageous leaders, I felt my enthusiasm ignite for creating a compassionate, more just society. Two series in particular profoundly shaped my commitment to confront bias, privilege, and racism, both in myself and in others around me. The Louder Than Words series, right here, looked at issues causing inequities and division in our communities and how we can do something together to build up systems of support and well-being for all. I was riveted by every speaker, in particular Sean Good, the executive director of Choose 180. He and his team are transforming systems of injustice by providing restorative justice methods to young people in place of criminal prosecution. This program gives young people new choices, opportunities to redirect energies and develop skills to achieve their goals. And on a parallel track, the focus of Dean Jodi Sandfort's forums this year on race and public policy. I was motivated by the caliber of national and local leaders whom are moving themselves and their organizations from anti-racist commitments to actually dismantling systemic racism. Centering race, these forums ran the gamut from child welfare reform to racial awakening and its influences in policymaking. The topics covered in the Louder Than Words series and the Evans School Dean's Forum are infused throughout President Cauce's mission of anti-racism here at the University of Washington and the UW's Diversity Blueprint, calling for more meaningful action, increased accountability, and transparent reflection on how our histories and systems contribute to various forms of exclusion. UW's pilot of NextGen is cultivating promise for tomorrow's public service sector. NextGen and all the students with me are developing a core of public service leaders, both young and the young at heart. For me personally, NextGen, Evans School, and Sari are the most impactful aspects of my growth and development in becoming an anti-racist leader and a leader to the future. I am committed to public service, working in a way to benefit people, all people, community, specifically the most marginalized, and society, particularly those who are underserved, with courage, conviction, and compassion. Next month, I will earn my BA in political science with a minor in public policy at the Evans School. Yes, I could have completed those 6 credits in 1 to 2 quarters and called it good. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so grateful to the University of Washington and Volcker Alliance for bringing NextGen to campus. I sincerely hope there is continued funding to grow this program into a greater movement, making a deeper impact on more undergraduates at the University of Washington and society at large. I am a different person today because of NextGen. I'm a better role model to my children. I'm a better community leader for equity and change. What's next for me? I hope my goal is to help students become NextGen Civic leaders in the future. Thank you, and thank you for being here.
I am so glad all of you decided to spend this little bit of time with us this morning. You've gotten just a taste of what we're trying to build. And let's give another round of applause for our speakers. So there are some sandwiches and food here. The space, as you've heard, is for connection and community, and so we would just invite you to stay and continue to let your ideas be sparked about what this could become. I'm happy to say that we are in deep conversations with our colleagues at Bothell and Tacoma who are eager to broaden this initiative so that it is touching all young people who are coming to the University of Washington for the kind of education that we need for the next generation. Thanks so much.